AITA for coming home early and catching my girlfriend hiding someone? There are men who dedicate their lives to uncovering uncomfortable truths, to following trails that others prefer to ignore, but no investigation hurts as much as the one that starts in your own bedroom. When Nate Brooks returned to his home in Dallas a night earlier than expected, he did not expect to find lit candles or another person his presence in the house. Anyone else would have run up the stairs in anger. He poured himself a glass of water and started taking notes. What he discovered was not just a betrayal. It was a calculated plan designed to strip him of everything he had built over a decade. The smell hit me before the key even finished turning. Sandalwood, something floral I did not recognize. And underneath all that, the unmistakable scent of the lavender candles that Vanessa kept on the top shelf of the guest room closet, the ones that cost $40 each and that, according to her, were for special occasions only. I dropped my suitcase in the foyer and stood still. 15 years of covering important stories for independent media in Dallas taught me one thing that no journalism book mentions. When you walk into a place and something does not add up, the first 30 seconds tell you more than any interview. Do not interrupt. Let the space speak. And the space was screaming. Smooth jazz was coming from the dining room speaker, that playlist Vanessa put on when she hosted intimate evenings. The lights were dimmed to that warm amber tone we never used during the week. My flight from Chicago was supposed to land at 11 at night, but the airline canceled without prior notice, and instead of looking for a hotel, I decided to rent a car and make the long drive back. I did not let her know. I do not know why. Maybe something inside me already knew. Vanessa appeared at the top of the stairs, barefoot, wearing a black silk robe I did not recognize. She walked down 3 steps and stopped as if she had hit an invisible wall. Nate. Her voice broke halfway through my name. Why did not you let me know? I observed her with the same calmness I use when a source starts getting nervous on camera. Clenched jaw, eyes too wide, one hand gripping the railing as if it were the only thing keeping her standing. I gave her my best smile, the one that has gotten me out of more trouble than I can count, the one that makes people think I am not paying attention. They canceled the flight. My love, I wanted to surprise you. She did not move. Then I heard it. Upstairs in the second-floor hallway, that specific creak of the old hardwood floor in front of the master bedroom, the third board from the left, warped just enough to give itself away. I had been meaning to fix it for 2 years. Vanessa reminded me every month. Suddenly, I was grateful with all my soul that I had never fixed it. Cautious footsteps, someone trying not to make noise and failing. I held Vanessa's gaze. I kept smiling. What a heavy day, I said, leaving my suitcase by the door. I'm going to get a glass of water. I walked to the kitchen without looking up. Not because I did not want to. Every muscle in my body pulled me toward those stairs. There was a version of me, a very old one, that wanted to rush up and confront whatever I found. But beneath the anger, beneath that cold feeling that settled over me, I understood something with the brutal clarity that only instinct gives you. Going up now was the worst possible move, the most satisfying in the short term, the stupidest in the long run. I poured myself water from the pitcher, drank slowly, listened to the muffled sounds of someone getting dressed in a hurry upstairs. A belt, a zipper, the soft thud of shoes. Vanessa appeared in the kitchen behind me, pale, starting 3 sentences without finishing any. I am dead tired, I said, leaving the glass in the sink. I am going to stay at Derek's house to give us both some space. I walked over, kissed her on the cheek. She shuddered. Rest, Vanessa. I left without looking back. I drove 6 blocks to Derek Lawson's house in the same Lake Highlands neighborhood. I parked, sat in the dark for exactly 9 minutes with my hands on the steering wheel and the engine off. Then I opened the notes on my phone and wrote a single line. Do not react. Think. I messaged Derek. I need your couch and your discretion. He answered in 30 seconds. Door is open. There is fresh coffee on the stove. Throw in some cinnamon if you want. My entire career had been an exercise in patient observation. Average height, a build that did not draw attention, a smile that made people assume I was harmless. Local officials had trusted me with documents. Business leaders had opened up to me over drinks. A real estate developer in North Dallas had once shared too much because I had that face, the face of a guy who posed no danger. I was not harmless. I just never let the room know it until it was already too late. By the next morning, I already had a name. The camera on Derek's neighbor's doorbell captured enough of the street. I had contacts in places that most people prefer to avoid and 15 years of experience obtaining information that was not always easy to get. At 9 in the morning, I had the license plate from Texas. By noon, I had a full name. Brandon Caldwell, 46 years old, real estate developer with a portfolio of commercial properties spread across Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin. He drove a graphite-colored luxury Suburban. He belonged to 2 exclusive golf clubs and had been married since 2018 to a woman named Jessica Caldwell. That detail stuck in my chest like a hot coal. I spread everything out on Derek's table and looked at it with the coldness I reserve for other people's stories, as if it were happening to someone else. Brandon's LinkedIn photo stared back at me. Strong jaw, perfect teeth, the look of a man used to having all doors open for him. He looks like one of those guys who narrates his own success stories in the third person, Derek said, peeking over my shoulder. I purposely put the wedding photo next to it, Brandon and Jessica at an estate in the Texas Hill Country. She was smiling with that specific smile of a woman who had committed to a situation she had not completely verified. She does not know, I said. Are you going to tell her? Not yet. I opened another folder. Vanessa's phone records for the last 6 months, which I got through a contact who owed me favors from a past story on questionable real estate financing. I had stared at those records until they stopped looking like betrayal and started looking like evidence. Calls to a law firm. Starting in February, attorney Elizabeth Montgomery, a high-net-worth divorce specialist. I cross-referenced the dates of the calls with the charges on Brandon's corporate card at a boutique hotel in downtown Dallas. First charge, January 5th. 8 months, maybe more. She was planning this, I said. Derek stayed quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? I closed the folder, took a sip of coffee. I am going to be the last person in this room to make a move. I returned to the house the next night with some takeout from Big Tony's food truck and an apologetic face. Vanessa opened the door tense, prepared for a confrontation, maybe even a confession. I could read it in the stiffness of her shoulders, in how she moved her hands not knowing where to put them. I gave her neither. I gave her the takeout with green sauce, my best smile, and asked her about her week. She replied in half sentences, watching me the way you watch an animal when you do not know if it is tame or dangerous. I did not mention the footsteps. I did not mention the floorboards. I was gathering information. My real work happened in the hours when she slept. I had a source, Danielle Vargas, a digital forensic consultant I had known for years, with specific experience in recovering deleted messages from cloud backups. I did not ask her to do anything illegal. I asked her a technical question. She gave me a technical answer. I did the rest. What I found in the recovered messages between Vanessa and Brandon was worse than an inappropriate relationship. It was a transaction. Once the divorce is filed, the production company counts as community property. August 14th. Elizabeth says we should push for a 50% valuation. You keep the cash, I advance the capital, you transfer it to me. Cleaner than a direct purchase. August 19th. He will not fight. He is not one of those. August 22nd. I read that line 3 times. He is not one of those. My production company, built over 11 years from a borrowed camera and a rented office space in Dallas, was valued at $480,000. In a divorce, Vanessa would be entitled to half. Brandon would buy her share below market value to help finance a real estate development that he apparently had been trying to get off the ground for 2 years without securing investors. Elegant, in a disturbing way. They were not just involved with each other. They were using the situation to take what I had built. I smiled for the first time all week. Not the easy, harmless smile. The other one. I called Thomas Gallagher. Tom was the kind of lawyer people hired when they wanted to win, not just fight. He had the energy of a man who found other people's problems genuinely fascinating, which made him very good at his job and occasionally exhausting in meetings. Tell me everything, he said when I sat down in his office in North Dallas. I told him. Tom listened without interrupting, the clearest sign that he was taking me seriously. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and pressed his fingertips together. The messages are recoverable evidence. My source will testify about the methodology if necessary. Perfect. First, before any divorce is filed, We document the company's assets in a way that formally establishes your premarital contribution as dominant. It changes the valuation equation completely. I already had the incorporation records, every contract with clients, every initial invoice, all predating the marriage by 3 years. Tom smiled. Have you done this before? I have spent 15 years watching powerful people try to take things from others. I paid attention. I pulled out a second folder. Brandon Caldwell is financial records, obtained through a contact I cultivated during an investigation into real estate financing issues 2 years ago. Brandon's empire was leveraged heavily. The development he needed the money for from Vanessa's settlement was his last viable option before 3 properties faced serious issues. He needs the capital before December, I said. They're going to file the papers soon, so we will be ready before they act. Tom dropped his pen. And Jessica Caldwell? I had thought about Jessica for days. She did not appear in any message. As far as I could determine, she was as unaware as I was. Maybe more, considering she had 2 young children and a husband who spent supposed working nights in boutique hotels. She deserves to know, I said. But the timing has to be right. When is it right? When it benefits both of us. I found her at an organic market in North Dallas on a Saturday morning, just like my source told me she did every weekend. 2 kids hanging on her, a canvas bag on her shoulder, deep dark circles under eyes that missed nothing. I introduced myself as a journalist, which was true, and told her I was working on a report about commercial real estate, which was technically true. I asked her for 5 minutes. Jessica Caldwell had the energy of a woman who ran on competition and careful caution, and she accepted the 5 minutes because she could spot a liar quickly. And I did not look like one. I told her enough. The hotel, the dates, the specific pattern of Brandon is suburban parking in front of my house on nights that coincided with his supposed business dinners. I did not overwhelm her with messages or documents. I just gave her enough truth so the rest would fall into place on its own. Jessica sat very still for a long time. Her youngest son tugged at her sleeve. She gave him a piece of dried fruit without looking away. How long have you known? 2 weeks. Why are you coming to me? Because your husband is about to use my wife's divorce settlement to rescue his struggling portfolio. If either of us acts poorly, we both lose. But if we act together, the math changes. She studied me intently. What do you need from me? I need you to pretend everything is normal until it is not. And I need a witness who can confirm the relationship existed before any legal process began. That protects your case as much as mine. A long silence. Then she picked up her bag. Tell me what to do. For the next 3 weeks, I played the most demanding role of my career, a man who suspected nothing. I was affectionate with Vanessa. I barbecued on the patio twice a week. I casually mentioned that the production company had a large pending contract with a television network, inflating the apparent value of exactly what she and Brandon were trying to take. I watched her go out to the patio to call Brandon. I watched her nod and gesture with the focused energy of someone reporting information back. I let her report. Everything I said was carefully calibrated. Meanwhile, Tom filed a discrete set of documents establishing my premarital ownership structure. Bulletproof, retroactive, impenetrable, registered in a way that raised no red flags for either Vanessa's lawyer or Brandon's financial team. The big contract I mentioned did not exist. The restructuring that transferred the company's most valuable intellectual property to a separate partnership did. Vanessa filed for divorce on a Thursday, the papers on the kitchen table while I was at the office. I called Tom from the parking lot, and he simply said, "We are ready." That same Thursday night, Jessica Caldwell walked into Brandon's office unannounced and put a USB drive on his desk. Every recovered message between him and Vanessa, extracted by Danielle, delivered by the one person Brandon could not dismiss, charm, or deflect. Jessica did not raise her voice. She sat down, looked him in the eyes, and said, "I know everything. And his lawyer knows it too." Brandon called Vanessa from his building, his parking lot 20 minutes later. My contact recorded the call. "It is over. His lawyer already filed something. Elizabeth says it changes the valuation. The company is not what we thought." Vanessa's voice, very low. "What do you mean it is not what we thought?" He restructured. "There is nothing to seize." 8 seconds of silence on her end. "Brandon, you said it was bulletproof." "I thought it was too. I listened to the recording twice." Then I put my phone away and started preparing dinner. The confrontation, when it came, was not dramatic like Vanessa had imagined. She arrived at Tom's office expecting a negotiation. She brought attorney Montgomery, who was sharp and experienced and clearly had not received the full picture from her client. Because the expression on her face when Tom put the documents on the table was the very specific look of a lawyer discovering she had been given incomplete information. I was already seated when they walked in. I did not stand up. I smiled. Tom went through the documents with the quiet efficiency of a man who genuinely enjoyed that part of the job. My production company, predating the marriage by 3 years, operated under a separate intellectual property holding structure since 2022, documented, registered, solid. The marital estate was the shared house in Lake Highlands, a joint savings account, and a car in both our names, divided equally. Vanessa would receive half the value of the house and half the account balance. Total, approximately $190,000. She was expecting much more. Attorney Montgomery leaned in and whispered something to her. Vanessa's jaw clenched. "Did you know?" she said, looking straight at me. "All this time I came home, and there was someone else here. I am a journalist, Vanessa. Knowing things is literally what I do." I looked at attorney Montgomery. "You might want to ask your client about the August messages, specifically the ones coordinating the transfer of assets to a third party as part of a divorce strategy. Tom has them. It is better you know what you were advising on." The attorney stayed very quiet. That night, Brandon Caldwell received a certified letter from Jessica, his lawyer. The next morning, 3 of his commercial properties were flagged by a bank that received an anonymous tip about inconsistencies in his loan applications. A tip traced back to material from an investigation I had done 2 years prior and never fully published because the subject reached a private settlement. I published the full version that night on a platform with 1,200,000 subscribers. The headline, House of Cards. How a developer built an empire with other people is money. Brandon's phone stopped working normally around midnight. 31 days after Vanessa filed for divorce, I signed the final papers in Tom's office. I shook his hand. I walked out into a clear December afternoon in Dallas and walked down the sidewalk with my company intact, my full catalog, my reputation, and the particularly quiet satisfaction of a man who was underestimated by people who should have researched better. Vanessa kept the $190,000 and moved to Austin. She and Brandon lasted 6 weeks after Jessica filed her own divorce. They had a major argument in the lobby of a hotel in Miami Beach and split up unceremoniously. 2 people who bet everything on a plan discovering they had nothing in common once the plan fell apart. Jessica Caldwell filed for divorce from Brandon in December and got full custody of the kids in March. She sent me a bottle of good whiskey for Christmas with a note. "Thanks for making the last move." I sent a card back. "You were the better strategist. I just handed you the pieces." The report on Brandon is financial practices circulated for 6 weeks before a national business outlet picked it up. By spring, 2 creditors had initiated asset recovery processes. Brandon was not finished. Men like that are never completely finished, but he was considerably smaller. And the golf club quietly let his membership expire. Derek took full credit for the operation. "I provided the couch," he said, drinking beer at my house, "and that wildlife documentary, which frankly was formative. Your contribution was enormous." "I know." Derek raised his bottle. "Are you okay, man?" I thought about it honestly, the way I always think about things, without romanticizing or dramatizing. "Yes," I said. "Truthfully, I am." I looked around the living room. No candles, no soft jazz, no stage performance for an audience that should not have been there. Just my space, my name on the door, my rules. I was fine. Comment. I really hope this story stays with you like it did with me. I've learned that protecting your self-respect matters more than anything else in tough times. When someone crosses a line, how you choose to respond says everything about the person you are becoming. Staying calm and thinking things through often leads to the best outcomes. Taking full responsibility for your own healing is a powerful act of strength. Choosing kindness toward yourself and others, even when it's hard, can open unexpected doors. You deserve to build a life filled with genuine peace and respect. It's okay to walk away from what no longer serves your well-being. What matters is how you move forward with quiet confidence and clear boundaries. I'd love to hear what this story made you reflect on in the comments below. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.